Violence erupted at anti-Israel demonstrations on multiple college campuses over the weekend, including at Yale University, where a Jewish student was stabbed in the eye with a Palestinian flag. In a statement that condemned both the anti-Semitic language and the intimidating and harassing behavior of many students, the president of Columbia University announced last night that classes would be held online only today for safety reasons. Are colleges doing enough to protect Jewish students? How can Christians help this effort? Joining me now to discuss it is Rabbi Yaakov Menken, Managing Director of the Coalition for Jewish Values. Rabbi Menken, welcome to Washington Watch and happy Passover.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
It's good to be with you. Your reaction when you saw the anti-Semitism at these demonstrations last weekend?
Well, are they doing enough? The answer is obviously a resounding no. Very sadly, obviously, humanity has seen this happen before. Anti-Semitism is always about finding a facade, a pretense, and then moving on to their end goal, which has always been ethnic cleansing and genocide. And that is exactly what we're seeing happen. The fact of the matter is that to claim that first they claimed, oh, it's just about anti-Israel. Like you said, it's the anti-Israel protests. But they were never anti-Israel protests. They were always anti-Semitic protests that glorify terrorism, that glorify atrocities, actual beheading of babies and rapes and holding hostages. These are not decent human beings. Columbia was confronted with a clear choice, either the anti-Semitic barbarians or the Jews. They expressly chose the anti-Semitic barbarians. Bottom line. The reason why classes went virtual at Columbia today is because the rabbi of the OUJLIC at that campus said to the Jewish students, it's not safe for you here. I suggest you return home as soon as possible until the situation on campus changes. Let's be clear. Jews are being ethnically cleansed from Columbia University for their own safety. And there was one professor, Shai Davidai, who was having none of it. He said, I am bringing 10 students and alumni with me Monday morning. We're going to go onto the campus. We're going to go right into the middle of that anti-Semitic demonstration, and we insist you keep us safe. Columbia deactivated the access card of their professor. Shai Davidai, Professor Shai Davidai of Columbia University, had his access card deactivated by the university to prevent him from interfering with the anti-Semitic pro-Hamas demonstration at that campus. The entire administration of Columbia is utterly compromised by Jew hatred. This is exactly how the Nazis took over. And we're watching it happen at Columbia. We're watching it happen at Yale and Harvard and Penn, MIT, Princeton. It's obviously the most elite places because that's the places where they have to compete with Jews.
Now, Rabbi, you identify the problem at these elite universities. Is this a bottom-up movement, or is this a top-down movement? Because we're focused on the protesters on these campuses, and we assume that these are students, though I think there's evidence to suggest they're not all students. It's just people on the campus in some cases. But is this something that has surprised the administration of these universities, and they just genuinely don't know how to handle this? Or is this in some way a product of the administrators of these universities?
It is clearly a mixture that happened over time. Yeah, there's a certain bottom-up wag the dog. We have a statement in our Talmud that says that as we reach the end days, that the face of the generation will be the face of a dog. And one of the explanations of that is, look at a dog on the end of its leash. A person who's never seen a dog and a human master before, the owner of that dog, might imagine the dog is leading the master, right? But then the master takes a right turn at the corner. The dog continues on for a moment, realizes master's gone off in a new direction, and a second later, the dog is leading in the new direction. Sadly, a democracy leads to that sort of thing, where people just kind of follow by holding, they determine their positions by holding up their finger into the wind. That's what seems to have happened to a certain extent. But to another extent, these are the left-wing protesters, anti-establishment, which means to say anti-decency, anti-foundational values. These folks who were students with their, the long haircuts and the bandanas are now professors. Tenured professors, in some cases even deans of students. So at a certain point, they take over, top down. Like I said, Columbia administration has clearly chosen the anti-Semitic barbarians over the Jews. And you can't say that that's just, they didn't think about it or they didn't know what to do. They had to choose to deactivate the access card of a Jewish professor.
Yeah. Rabbi, we have about a minute left for this one, but how would you describe the kind of metamorphosis on the left into becoming a fairly anti-Israel and increasingly anti-Jewish political movement that seems to be part of their identity?
Well, it's all about that hatred for values that I've talked about. I've talked about it with Tony on this show, that you look at around the world at the countries where Christians are experiencing the worst persecution, and these are countries that already have no Jews. Places like Iraq, Syria, they get rid of the Jews, then they turn on the Christians. Egypt, same story. So you're watching this happen on campus. These so-called Palestinian protesters who are supposed to be about politics, or maybe they just want to target Jews. Well, why are they disturbing Christmas tree lightings and the Easter Vigil in St. Patrick's Cathedral? They're not interested just in Jews, much less Israel. They're interested in attacking America, its core values, and the values of the founding fathers that they got in the Bible.
In about 15 seconds, what can Christians do to support the Jewish community?
Well, the first thing is you've got to realize this is your problem. It is not a Jewish problem. In fact, we're going to read in the Passover Seder tonight, we're going to read that in every generation they rise up to destroy us and God saves us from their hands. There is a divine promise of Jewish survival. There is no divine promise of American survival. Americans need to fight back against this. You need to pull your dollars from Colombia for sure. I mean, it's just obvious. We love what Congress is doing in the House under Virginia Fox.
I've got to cut you off there. I love the defunding piece, but we are out of time. Thank you for being with us. Rabbi Menken.
Thanks so much.